Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our listeners out there in podcast land. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the She Compass Show. This is Jo, and I am here with my co-captain Helen, and we are so happy to be here with you for another round of helping you navigate your life and finding your She Compass. And so today, Helen had a great idea. We were chatting yesterday about some topics that we could talk about. You know, one of the things that is, I think, sometimes a little bit challenging is keeping the topics wide enough and inclusive enough to really include women everywhere across the world. And, you know, we have our personal experiences, but we always want to include the experiences of other people, which is another reason why we love to hear your comments and feedback, so that we know the kinds of things that you want to talk about. So Helen and I were sitting yesterday, you know, eating our Captain Crunch, and I was probably eating something sweet that I shouldn't have been eating, but it was fun. And we were talking a little bit about how the world sort of pits women against each other. And Helen came up with a great topic I thought was great. And it's really about, she was quoting Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. I thought that was a great idea. I said that's what we should focus on, because a lot of topics focus on sort of just exploring the pitting against of women that the world does. But Helen, being the woman that she is and always wanting to end things on the positive, said what we need to focus on is what women should do when they find themselves in a situation like that. They should continue to focus on going high when they go low. In fact, Helen, I think one of the questions that you talked about, or one of the examples that you gave, was the Gayle King, Norah ODonnell situation. Helen and I are big fans of CBS News, and we watch it to kind of keep up on topics and sort of see where things are and whatnot. And one of the things that she had pointed out was that when Gayle King was made sort of the head of the morning news and Norah ODonnell was moved to the evening news, there were all these stories that were coming out that were saying, oh, these two women have a battle going on, and one of them tried to sabotage the position of the other. And, you know, they're really just basically saying that the friendship that exists between these two women was not real, doing everything they could to bring down the positive relationship of that. And so, Helen, I want to turn it over to you and see if you've got some commentary on that and talk about what you thought was great about how those women handled it. And I think we can all learn, all of us women across the world can all learn something from the grace. And you had some great advice yesterday. You said something about not giving it too much attention. Talk about that.
I think the sad thing about women in today's world is we have to understand that we set our own examples. When we see other women rise to the occasion, it makes other women stand back and say, hey, that's a good way to handle things. I wish I would have handled, you know, it's like I heard it through the grapevine. Whenever you take gossip and you take it and you're talking to one other person, it just escalates. It gets bigger and bigger. Then someone else adds something on, someone else adds something on. But when you're silent, when you say nothing, and you just show by your actions that you are stepping up to the plate, people have to take notice. So sometimes saying nothing about something is better than saying anything. Sometimes silence is golden.
We'll be right back. As many of you know, the She Compass Show is based on the lessons of finding our She Compass, 15 life lessons for women voyaging toward restoration, reconstruction, and renewal. So if you haven't yet picked up your copy of Finding Our She Compass, we encourage you to do so. It's available on Amazon, or you can go to our website, shecompass.com, and click on the Buy the Book and More page. Now, back to the show.
I think the ladies answered to it one time.
I think they did too.
Yeah, just one time. And it was, oh, come on. You know, we've been friends forever on here. We love one another. We care for one another. And we're happy to see each other in one another's positions, which gave both of those women the reign of the captain. So basically, they didn't, you know, no one lost anything. They both gained their own ship.
I love that. I love what you just said. That's exactly what they did. They took a moment. I remember them actually, I think the story in the New York Post had come out, I want to say the weekend before the official announcement, or the weekend after I don't remember. But I knew it came out before all the rumors started swirling, before there was an official announcement of some kind made. And you're right. They addressed it one time and basically said, all the things that you think you've heard, we are standing up to all of this gossip collectively so that we give each woman the right to be the captain of her own ship and address it, which you're absolutely right. I thought it was great.
Yeah. And another thing is that people have to understand is by them doing the morning show together for so long, their boss basically looked at it and said, you two women are so good that you need to separate platforms so we can display your talent, because you're so talented that two of you together need to be no more. I want to give you your own position. So they have to remember also that was now when a man gets moved around. I hate now men, don't beat me up on this, because I'm not saying this in a prejudiced way about men. I'm just saying the system and the way it works and what happens when a man gets a position. Everybody's clapping for him and saying, oh yeah, those two guys were so powerful together, but now dude's got his own position over here and I'm over here and we're all happy. But women, you have to remember, these things can be our fault by the way we bash other women or the way we talk about other women or the way we gossip about other women. Listen, if you start embracing a woman that you think is your competitor as your sister, your whole life will change instantly. Because I can tell you, when you're at the top of your game and you are as good as you are as what you do, you have no competitor but yourself. If you stop comparing yourself to what other women are doing in the positions that they're in and the way that they got there, and stop making gossip and stop talking smack about one another, we can all come together in a very happy little circle and figure out what is the best we can take away from that other woman. What is the best she can give us? What is the thing we can learn? We must take everything as a learning situation, a learning example, and take it to the highest point that we can possibly take it.
You know, Helen, that is absolutely right. The thing about it is that, and I'm going to go back to what you were saying a second ago about sort of not wanting to single out men and single out women. I think your point is valid, because the truth of the matter is that men who support women, they value the relationships between women that are positive. They see that and it empowers them.
Yes.
And they have talked about this. Mm-hmm. You and I have two very good men in our lives we have a whole lot of good men in our lives, but I'm thinking of the two that we just worked with. We've been working with buddies, our buddies, our brothers, two men that we love very much, who
support everything
that we do and are constantly talking about the fact that they wish that they could see more women connect with one another.
Yes, because the business that they are in, without saying the business that they're in, they see a lot of what men describe as, or what their words are, catfights. And for what and why? What are the reasons? I think it's a lot of our upbringing. Our upbringing has something to do directly with how we feel about other girls in our lives. Because I remember as being a little girl, I couldn't understand why so many girls were mean. I was like, what is this mean girl thing? Like, why are you being, I'm a girl, you're a girl. Aren't we supposed to hold hands and skip around the yard and be happy together? But some girls were so mean. Some people, grow up without hugs, so they don't hug people. You can't hug them. You can't touch them. You can't look at them the wrong way. You can't. So you learn a lot of things growing up as a girl directly from other girls. And I think after a while, if you allow it to, it will affect everything you ever do with a girl or a young woman or a woman. You go through all those stages and you become protective. You put your backbone up when you see another woman. And another thing is there's this big stigma in girls about who's the pretty girl, that girl's not very attractive, and that girl. I've always, even as a little girl, viewed all girls as beautiful in different ways. I didn't care what they looked like, what color they were. I could find the beauty in every girl. So I don't even understand when people make comparisons. But these horrible stigmas that people put on girls and women are the reason why we have insecurities against each other. And we need to relearn that not every girl is a bad girl or a mean girl.
And I think too, to your point, that in some cases it's about satisfying the ego, the pain, the discomfort in our own body that we compare ourselves to others, or we bully other people.
Right.
And
that's when the bullying comes out, because you don't understand how you can get past or through that other person without beating up on them. And if you can beat up on them, you can break them down to your level and your insecurity and the way you feel about yourself, because that's all bullying is bringing people down to the level that you really have, but you're doing it with an iron fist because you can't do it any other way but to bully someone with words or with your hands. And that's a horrible, horrible thing. And it takes a whole lot to get through something like that. And then you take that into your adulthood, because everyone knows that our childhood is going to mold the people that we are. And either you're some bully or you're a person that's been battered by a bully. You have a lot of, either way, you have a whole lot of luggage, I would say, that you're carrying that you need to offload. So the best thing to do in those kind of circumstances is get some help.
And I will say this, that, it's interesting to see, outside of the country, the United States, where you and I are doing this podcast right now, as we know, the Duchess of Sussex, otherwise known to us Americans as Meghan Markle, just did a guest editing of the British Vogue. And so she's getting a lot of pushback from people saying, oh, she's not behaving like a royal. I read something this morning, that, well, she's taking too much control of the situation. And so there's a lot of bullying going on because of the level of confidence that this woman has.
Because she burned the confidence with her. And let's just really be real and quote unquote, this is an African-American woman. And so just the whole ideal that she doesn't belong there in the first place, behind all the other things, all the other pushback, all the other power that she came in to that place with, which her husband allowed her to have her free reign of power. He's very updated in the royal. He's always been the outgoing one. He's always been the one that's taken the most risk. And so he's following suit with his wife. And so what it looks like to people is she's changing everything. She's changing not only how it is done, but how it looks. And so prejudice is something that's embedded into people. It's embedded into the United States of America, and it's never going to change for some people. So people will always fight this thing. So I think as long as she's living and she's alive and she's doing that, she's just going to have to power through and do what she feels is right, because it's not going to change.
And that's exactly,
the opinions of people will not change.
And that's exactly what she's doing by stepping up and continuing to lead the charge on so many things. If you haven't seen the cover of British Vogue, it's been in the news this week. Meghan Markle picked out, I want to say maybe roughly 20 women or so that she has on the cover. And this is the September issue, which of course the September issue is usually known as the high fashion issue, the premier issue in every fashion publication. So this is the one she edited. She's got all these powerful women on the front. Mm-hmm. And she basically has made it clear, I did not want this issue to be about me. I wanted to use my platform to raise up other women.
Well, and that's what she's doing. But here's the thing. This lady was a model who was opening up suitcases on
the show with Howie Mandel.
Yeah. I forget the name of it. Me
too.
But anyway.
It'll come to us.
Something about a millionaire. You get to be a millionaire. But whatever it was, no one ever...
Deal or no deal.
Deal or
just
no
came
deal.
To me.
No one ever suspected that this woman would ever be married to a British
Harry.
royal.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't know what people are going to do with their lives. You don't know what level they're going to achieve. When you pass someone over or you walk on someone who you just think is beneath you have to be very careful. And this is why I tell people all the time, treat everybody with respect. There's a word, respect. Respect and honor people like you would like to be respected and honored. Because you never know who you're going to meet, what it's going to impact in your life, what it's going to bring to your life. And now I can imagine that there are so many people that had no respect for that lady. Oh, she just opening suitcases. She's a model. Oh, what? Now it's like, I worked with her. I knew her. I was around her. Hey, it didn't matter because you probably didn't even care what she did or who she was. But now she's able to get on the cover of British Vogue and put her besties on there, the women that probably had the most impact in her life, and say, let's all lift each other up.
And here's a very, very small example. So it's like you said, whether it's a Meghan Markle or it's someone you pass on the street. Just yesterday, we had a little situation. We were getting our garbage disposal, some plumbing issues repaired. And there was a gentleman here, a wonderful, kind gentleman. And this is the thing about Helen. Now, she doesn't care where you come from, where you've been. She's going to strike up a conversation with you because she knows you have something unique to offer. Now, this gentleman was a plumber, and the connection that they made is a simple connection, but it's something that could lead somewhere else. As it turns out, the gentleman had met Helen before, and he remembered her. And I'm going to tell you what he said. What he said to her was, "I remember you because not only do I remember what you look like, but the thing that I remember the most about you is how kind you were to me. I don't have customers that are that polite to me or that kind to me." In fact, the gentleman had said that he had just come from a job where a woman was screaming over a $65 appliance or something like that for an hour and over something he couldn't control.
Yeah, in a very affluent neighborhood. Not that I really kind of put two and two together and said that's why she was screaming for a half an hour, because she could have lived where I came from in the neighborhood of Hunters Point and screamed for an hour. It's just the disrespect of screaming at someone for an hour over $65. So and this man is someone who is contracted by someone else. So he's working not for himself. He's working for another business. Just to imagine for a few minutes what that would sound like or what you would have to eat, because you have to keep your job. You have to feed your kids. When he got here, it was like, oh God, it's you.
It was so refreshing for him.
I did a job at one of your salons like several years ago, and as soon as he remembered who I was, the thing that he did was say, "Can I give you a hug?" And I said, "Of course." He said, "Because I remember you asking me when I got through with the job, can I just give you a hug?"
Oh, wow.
And so it was amazing, and I could see like this man's emotion. He was pretty emotional because he had just came from the screaming that he took for an hour. And I said to him, I said, God works in mysterious ways. I said, sometimes you're here for what you think you're here for, and you're not even here for the thing you think that you came for.
That's exactly
and
right.
That happens a lot, because I learned some information about his wife, and I was able to give him a card for her, and I was able to make a great connection with her. And so things are not always what they seem. We have to embrace the fact that we live in a world that it seems to be all bad, but it's because one person can make everything seem bad. But if you really reach out, there's so many good people still, many wonderful people that still are wanting to make the connections. Maybe they're afraid to make the connection as well. But if we all become afraid, how are we going to move on? We're human beings still first. And that means we have human emotions. We have feelings. So you don't want to just get to the point where you just think that people are just a dead inside.
And if you have to challenge somebody, we talked about this in the last show. Mm-hmm. Decide if it's worth it. There's so many other things that are going to decide if it's worth getting yourself so far out of pocket that you're gonna potentially burn a bridge and regret it.
You can regret it, and if you're the type of person that you do have a good heart, and I think so many of us do. A lot of us are scared to display it now because we don't want to become vulnerable. But I think there are still wonderful people in this world that we can still make good connections with, that make us feel good inside, and you can give a good handshake or a hug to. I'm personally a hugger. I like to hug people more than I handshake people, because I just think that it's something that every time I do it, I feel like someone needs it, because every time it happens, someone says to me, oh God, I really needed that hug, or I really need. There's not too many times where someone has said I did not need that hug, because people need to know that they are still loved and respected.
And that's really, really important what you're saying, because the truth of it is, and if you're a fan of the show and you've listened to our episodes, Helen and I really try to stay on the positive, because there's so much negative around us. But I think that the thing that I want to say is, it's not that we don't acknowledge how challenging things are in this world, particularly in this incredibly divisive political climate. It seems like people are clawing at each other. It's exhausting. It seems like people are clawing at each other more often now than they ever were. But you can still make a decision to live your life in a positive fashion and to decide that you, no matter what they do, and there are going to be people that are going to come at you, and you touched on this earlier, Helen, that want to come at you for no other reason than
but to tear you down.
Just because it's Tuesday. They just want to bring everything down, and you can still make a decision to go high when they go low. And sometimes that's where it's the most difficult, because they will ride you and ride you and ride you, and you still have to decide not to let that person bring their negativity into your space.
Yeah, well, it's like that old movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I refuse to let you just snatch my body and make it where I'm just worthless to myself. I can't do that. I have to live in this world. And we have to remember, a lot of times when we're watching the news, that's the worst of what's going on in the world. There are so many good things that are not talked about, so many decent humanitarian things that people do for others and helping others every day, helping the homeless, feeding people, giving something to somebody who didn't expect to get it, lifting people up, mentoring people, just really lifting people up, lifting women up, lifting women lifting women, and setting the pace and the example for a perfect platform for women to say, I am worth it. I have found my she compass, and I will not let go of it. And I will hand the torch to another woman to find hers. And the more of us who find ours, the better off we're going to be for it.
And I want to take what you just said, lifting women up, and underscore that a little bit more. And I'm going to maybe even make it as so much to say a bit of a personal challenge, if you will, to the women who are out there who are listening, particularly the young women who see so much imagery that is designed to affect them, designed to affect their buying decisions, designed to affect their mentality, designed to make them feel a certain way about themselves and others. Those are the women, and of any age, but particularly the young women who are still coming into their own and determining who they are. That's the time to really take a good solid look at who you are and actively decide that everything you think you feel that might be negative, you're going to turn it into a positive. I have a quick story for you. So when I was a young woman, there was a really good woman that I was friends with for a good portion of my life. And this was a woman who was coming up and really trying to find her way in the world, was making a lot of mistakes and wasn't really sure about, which way to go to determine who she was. And one of the pieces of advice I gave her, I remember I couldn't have been older than 14 or 15 years old, but it was something that I understood intrinsically about my life. I said that every time you feel like doing something, and meaning by that, she had a pattern that she followed. She would always take the negative road or take the wrong turn whenever a decision could be made that could affect her ability to grow better and smarter. And so I said to her, do me a favor. Let's try to take a look at this pattern that you're involved in. The next time you feel like doing a certain behavior that you're used to, I want you to stop in your tracks, literally stop in your tracks, and do something completely different that you would never think of doing. And I said, I don't care what it is. It could be something as simple as taking a different route on a walk to school. It could be, something as simple as if you're studying 4 hours a night, break it down to 2 hours. Maybe you need a break. If you're, looking at a certain TV program that you like, and it starts making you feel a certain way, and you start thinking about, I want to, do XYZ. Stop it, turn it off, go do something completely different. And it took her a while, but just implementing that one little thing made all the difference. And she would come back and tell me, I feel a little bit different. And it wasn't a big sort of, ice cream lightning moment that came into her life, but the small changes allowed her to have some level of control of her life. And the thing that I want to say, particularly to the young women that might be struggling with pitting another woman against themselves, or feeling like other women are being pit against her, or being compared to her, or she's comparing herself to someone else's job, someone else's looks, someone else's boyfriend, whatever the case may be. If you're feeling any level of insecurity around another woman, I want to give you that same piece of advice. As soon as that feeling comes up, because I've struggled with this myself, as soon as that feeling comes up, stop in your tracks and do something completely different than what you would normally do at that that moment, because your mind wants to keep going with the negativity. Oh, she's prettier. Oh, she has a greater job. Oh, she's smarter. And it just wants to take that negativity into another level. And you'll find that as you can continue to literally change that behavior, to physically force your body to behave a certain way, your mental and your spiritual behavior is going to follow suit. And as I said, the experience I have, that's a personal experience. And so it's going to be different for every single person. But I want to give that piece of that little nugget to you and see if that can help kind of bring things into perspective a little bit.
Well, yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right.
If you're having those type of anxieties already at 14 years old, there's been some things that went on in your life that are practice. And what I mean by that is you practice made perfect. So if you're perfect at doing something that's not healthy or good for you, it's going to take a long time to get out of that practice. But it's baby steps at a time. At least you're taking the steps, because sometimes if you get to the point where you become a grown woman and that's been your practice, that's why it is so hard. I cannot tell you how difficult it is for some women to get out of that bag of, the prettier and depending on the type of life they've had, if they've been women of divorce who husband left them because a woman, men put a lot of stigmas in women's minds too. She was smarter than you, or she was thinner than you, or she was prettier than you, or she was whatever it is on Tuesday. Women pit each other against one another, typically too, a lot of the time because of men, because of the way they feel they have to go after whatever it is they want, and they have to move everyone else out of the way to get it. And that's a very cruel way of getting anything you want. And I just think that if you have enough confidence, if you're a confident woman, you're confident in every facet of your life, you will get what you want without even having to get a man to do it.
That is the absolute truth. And you will get what you want confidently and in the right way. And that's the advice, Helen, that I think you're giving. And you're 100% right about that.
Yeah, because you have to have your own security no matter what. Even if your husband's doing great things, you need to be doing great things too, no matter what that great thing is to you. If it's motherhood, if you're raising your children, if that's what you choose to do, fine. That's a job. That's a 24-hour job. Sometimes that job is way harder than the job I do. I know I've raised 2 kids and had to run a business. So it's not easy, but what I'm trying to tell you is you need to make sure that whatever you do it with confidence, love, and appreciation and respect of others.
And when they go low,
we go high.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of the She Compass Show. I love doing these kinds of shows. They're empowering. We love sharing our messages. We just want to send as much positivity your way as we can. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, if you have questions or comments, we invite you to take a look at our social media, which we think you could find some great information there, some very empowering messages. So if you're not following us yet, on Instagram at shecompass.com, Facebook, She Compass, or Twitter at She Compass, please do so. We love to share all the positivity there. And of course, if you have comments or questions, we have a great website that's also very empowering, shares some great messages, has a great blog, and you can find that at shecompass.com. So thank you so much for joining us. And as always, we wish you well. Have a wonderful day.